I've often thought that the quality of a game can be judged by the quality of its boss battles, and while the majority of boss fights in the video game world present themselves as a powerful force or treacherous obstacle that the player must overcome, chances are that you'll occasionally come across that one boss fight which is just a downright pain, and reminds you of the noisy kid at the back of the cinema whose very existence seems devoted to sucking all the fun out of your experience. This is a countdown about those types of bosses. The types of bosses that are either memorable for all the wrong reasons, boring, annoying, unsatisfying, or the ones that just piss players off for various reasons. Okay, sit back, relax, and let the rage begin.
Listen, lady, why don't you try using some deodorant? Because honestly, you smell like shit.
This one was just as insolent.
Rosalind!
Now, open your heart and let my music guide you into the world of everlasting peace and rot and hell.
When it comes to most first-person shooters, making good bosses for them is no easy task. Granted, there are exceptions with most of the bosses in the Metroid Prime trilogy and the brute cheater in Halo 2. However, that doesn't mean you can place one of the most annoying bullet hell bosses at the end of the game. Stormgeist from Medal of Honor Frontline is by far one of the most frustrating and unsatisfying final bosses to ever appear in an FPS. The two levels before this had you fighting through a train station to board Stormgeist's armored train before you can escape, and battling through hordes of enemies on said train. When you finally get to the final boss, you are greeted with a ton of German troops armed with bazookas, heavy assault rifles, and not one, not two, but 7 mounted machine guns. Nearly all of these weapons are high damage, and the bazookas and grenades that the soldiers use are one-hit kills, meaning that you're reduced to dashing between cover and taking random pot shots whenever you think it's safe. To make matters worse, Stormgeist cowers behind a group of tightly packed enemies, and when they're dead, he runs away to find some more soldiers to hide behind. When you combine this with the next to no health and ammo pickups in the entire level, and the fact that you can kill Stormgeist by accident when he's running between cover, you've got one lousy and terrible excuse for a boss fight. Stormgeist, I have just one thing to say to you. Ich bin stinksauer!
And rot. And hell.
When it comes to Mario games, the final bosses are, you know what, screw it, number 14 is Bowser from Super Mario Galaxy 2. Like Super Mario Galaxy before it, this battle aims to build up the suspense and excitement by making you run through one of the best designed levels in the entire game. Unlike the first game, however, the fight which follows is one of the most pathetically easy final bosses I've ever faced. In order to truly show you how much I hate this boss, I need to compare it with the final battle with Bowser from the first Super Mario Galaxy. In the first game, you have a 3-phase battle which serves to test your skills, which culminates in a final showdown which is the harder version of how Bowser was fought earlier in the game. In this fight, however, all we get is just a rehash of the Bowser fights from earlier on, with the only difference being that Bowser appears to attack more frequently. Once you've got that phase of the fight out of the way, the second phase is even more pathetic. Bowser's weakness in this stage couldn't be more obvious if the game developers decided to stick giant arrows pointing to it, and if it had a giant sign above saying, "Hit me." Not only that, Bowser only takes 3 hits, and he's done. And in case you're wondering why I didn't go with the final boss of Super Mario Sunshine, well, the level leading up to it was kinda crap, so I didn't really have high expectations for that fight. This fight honestly just feels that either A, the developers ran out of disk space after putting all the effort into the final level, or B, it was just put into the game as an afterthought. Thank God the next 3D Mario game down the line managed to redeem the final battles.
And rot. And hell.
If there's one thing that most Star Fox players can agree on, is that Andross' brain was not worth playing through the whole game twice while having to perform insanely complicated tasks just to be able to face it. Was it really worth it, Nintendo? Was this fight really worth having to defeat the attack carrier, complete 3 of the hardest segments in the game, having to play through one of the worst controlled water levels ever made, and having to defeat Starwolf for a second time? Was it really worth going through all that just to face a final boss that you can't even shoot? Andross' brain moves so fast that the only way to damage him is to constantly perform somersaults to either get behind the boss or quickly change direction. Even then you can probably only get in a few shots before you completely lose track of him, and to make matters worse, Andross' main attack is sending his eyes orbiting around him to make them crash into you. Because of how small the eyes are, chances are that you lose sight of them and suddenly take a crap load of damage because you were focusing on the brain rather than the eyes. What makes this fight even worse is that in order to damage Andross, you have to shoot the base of the brain. But to do that, you have to get close to him. However, should you do that, he will grab you, deal a ton of damage, and destroy your wings. How could this fight get any worse? How about not restoring your health after you take down Andross's equally frustrating first form?
And rot. And hell.
What can I say about the critically acclaimed Batman Arkham Asylum? Really, just what can I say? Great gameplay, free-flowing combat, surprisingly fun stealth, and it's up there with the action game greats such as Uncharted, Devil May Cry 3, and even Metal Gear Rising. Not bad for a licensed game. So naturally, the bosses in this game should reflect this. And do they? The answer? No, not really. The problem is that most of these bosses don't really do the characters justice. Harley Quinn is taken down in a cutscene, Zsasz goes down in one hit, Killer Croc was as boring as hell, and we all know about the god-awful final boss against the Joker. But there is one boss battle in this game which truly left me with a sour taste in my mouth due to how bad it was. Bane. In the comics, Bane is presented as a character which goes against stereotypical brute strength supervillain, in that he always takes time to think and prepare before attempting to cave Batman's face in. He's even been the only villain to break Batman both physically and mentally, with one of his best portrayals being The Dark Knight Rises, which honestly was one of the few redeeming factors of that slightly disappointing film. However, Bane's fight in Arkham Asylum just has him mindlessly charged towards you, which is not just completely out of character, but it's embarrassingly easy to avoid and counter. In fact, all you'll do in this fight is just lazily throw a batarang and then dodge. What makes this pathetic fight even worse is that after Bane takes damage, a swarm of the 11 Joker goons will jump into the arena. This makes it fairly difficult to prioritise between the enemies or Bane. If you choose to take down the goons, then Bane will either hit you with a hard to dodge charge attack or a projectile, which you can't even see coming before it's too late. If you choose to take down Bane, then the Joker goons will attack you from behind while preparing to line up an attack. Not to mention that another 11 will spawn the instant Bane takes damage.
And rot. And hell.
When it comes to the Sonic franchise, there are a number of bosses which people seem to dislike or straight up despise. I mean, we have the Egg Viper.
Get a load of this!
The Egg Emperor. The Time Eater.
Like a rolling shot!
The Egg Breaker.
You know what they say, the more the merrier.
And of course, Silver.
It's no use! It's no use! It's no use! It's no use! It's no use!
But my most hated boss in the Sonic franchise comes in the form of one of the most overrated boss fights in Sonic Generations. The Egg Dragoon. The other bosses are hated because they have bad controls, spam their attacks, attack you when you can't even see what they're doing, launch attacks that are almost impossible to dodge, or spout annoying one-liners. However, the Egg Dragoon somehow manages to combine all of the above. In the 3D section of the fight, it is impossible to attack the Egg Dragoon no matter where the cockpit is. Seeing in order to destroy the body, you need to boost into it, and as soon as he sees you boosting, Eggman will launch a blast of ice or fire which you cannot dodge because you cannot jump while boosting. Occasionally, Eggman will launch a stream of lasers that you have to jump over to avoid. However, the lasers get faster the more you dodge, meaning that as soon as you jump over one, you'll land on another. Because of this, you're forced to rely on the skydiving segments of the fight in order to destroy the body. Yet these segments are very rare and require to pull off some sort of special sequence in order to do, which is something I haven't figured out yet. The 2D segments are arguably worse than the 3D ones. Granted, it may be fairly easy to damage the head section of the boss, but after landing a successful attack, the Egg Dragoon will fly into the background and start firing ice blasts at the ground in front of you. In order to dodge them, you have to jump the instant the boss fires, any later and you cannot avoid taking the damage. What makes an annoying fight that little bit worse is the fact that throughout the fight, Eggman will not shut up. How the heck did this get so much praise?
And rot. And hell.
No more heroes? Yep. Jasper? Truth be told, I haven't exactly faced Jasper yet in No More Heroes 2, so that means I can't exactly say anything about the fight, so he's not on the list. Shinobu, on the other hand. Yes, I hate Shinobu. As a character, she wasn't really that well written and just seemed to have an annoying personality. as a boss fight, Shinobu is what I consider to be the worst boss in the game. The building where you fight her is dark and cramped, giving it a very claustrophobic feel. This means that it's very hard to see where Shinobu is and what attack she's going to be using unless you're close to her. Like the other bosses in No More Heroes, Shinobu has a distinct defense which you have to break if you want to damage her. With the other bosses in the game, you have to either interrupt a charge attack, hit them while they taunt you, or after a successful dodge. Shinobu, on the other hand, will not stop blocking, meaning you're restricted in the ways that you can damage her. Another thing that annoys me is that Shinobu serves as the game's wake-up call boss, which is a boss which serves the purpose of stepping up the difficulty and telling you that it's only going to get harder from here. Think Mistral from Metal Gear Rising or the Alpha Keratin from Valve's Inside Story. Because of this, the developers thought the best way to implement this was to give Shinobu lightning fast combos and a one-hit kill move. Normally, I'm fine with one-hit kills. Hurts my pride a bit pissed off it happened, but hey, at least I learned to get ready to dodge when the boss telegraphs that attack. However, with Shinobu, she telegraphs her one-hit kill move in the same way that she telegraphs her Sonic Sword attack. The main difference being that you can block the Sonic Sword, but not the one-hit kill. I can't tell you how many times I've been preparing to get close and block her range attack, only to get hit by that one-hit kill and die instantly. What makes this fight even worse is that if you can get a decent enough combo on her, you can take away a fair bit of her health in one go. Even if you can pull this off again, the fight becomes ridiculously easy. Believe me, it doesn't exactly require that much effort to be able to combo Shinobu, meaning this is yet another example of a boss fight which is frustrating at first, only to become insultingly easy on later playthroughs. Sort of like our old friend Vamp from MGS4. Speaking of which...
And rot. And hell.
You all knew he would be here. To be honest, I can't really say that much more about this fight's gameplay now to beat it, seeing as I already tore it to shreds in my Metal Gear Solid countdown. That leaves me with just a setting of the fight. As I mentioned previously, the fight takes place in the ruined hangar of Metal Gear Rex. There are piles of rubble everywhere, which Vamp can use to launch his attacks from. Naturally, this gives him a tactical and terrain advantage, which would be fine if there was a way to overcome it. Vamp is almost impossible to track when he's bouncing all over the place, meaning that you'll have a hard time trying to hit him. However, this means that he can kill you from almost anywhere, and at times he'll be out of the range of all your weapons except for the sniper rifles, which are useless due to how fast Vamp moves. But the main reason why this fight is here is because it serves no purpose. Nothing too important happens before the fight. Act 2 had previously set this fight up to be a duel between Vamp and Raiden, and we really have no reason for even fighting him. Even after you beat him, Raiden shows up and fights Vamp in a one-on-one knife fight while Snake holds up a sword of Gecko. Kojima, I ask you this. Wouldn't it have been better to completely skip this annoying and unnecessary fight and just move on to the next sequence than have Raiden take down Vamp in a cutscene display of his cyborg awesomeness? It would have meant you could have crammed more into Act 5.
And rot. And hell.
When it comes to Pokemon, there is that one gym leader that people just seem to find annoying, cheap, or just badly designed. For some people it's Whitney, for some it's Claire, for others it's Watson, but for me, that gym leader is Fantina. Oh god, this was the bane of my Pokemon time playthrough. Fantina is the gym leader of Hearthome City, who specialises in ghost types, and when you first arrive at the gym, it turns out she's not there. Absent on the job? That's not going to look good when the Pokemon League investigate those complaints now, is it? Anyways, after travelling to and defeating the gym leaders in Veilstone and Pastoria City, you then return to Hearthome to finally challenge Fantina. The build-up is tremendous, you've just had to travel 2 other gyms before you could return to this one, and this better be worth it. What follows is your hopes being shattered, your Pokemon obliterated, and your DS cartridge smashed to tiny pieces. Fantina's team in Diamond and Pearl consists of a Driflim, a Gengar, and a Mismagius. Her Driflim will constantly spam Astonish, which has a 50% chance of making you flinch, unlike in every other battle where the rate is 30%. When you can't move, Driflim will use Ominous Wind to deal a crap ton of damage which you can't do anything about, which will then create a cycle of you sending out your Pokemon only having them immobilized and KO'd 2 turns later. If you somehow manage to defeat that demon spawn of a Pokemon, her Gengar lulls you into a false sense of security, seeing as it goes down fairly quickly. But when she sends out her Magius, her AI becomes too smart for its own good. Her Mismagius will use a combination of Confuse Ray, Psybeam, and Magical Leaf. Confuse Ray causes one of the most annoying stat conditions in the entire series, Psybeam has a ridiculous critical hit chance, and Magical Leaf will never miss. But that's just in Diamond and Pearl. In Platinum, she's even more of a pain, seeing as she's the third gym leader you face, and she is way too difficult for that early on. This time she has a Duskull and a Haunter as well as a Miss Magius, and every single one of her Pokemon knows a status inflicting move and a move they will constantly spam. Duskull will constantly spam Shadow Sneak and Future Sight. Haunter will spam both Confused Ray and Hypnosis, completely ruining any strategy you have, and Miss Magius will constantly spam Magical Leaf. What makes this fight worse is that with the other gym leaders, if you lose, it's just a question of leveling up your Pokemon and improving your strategy. But with Fantina, there is no strategy involved. Basically, you will only defeat Fantina if the AI decides it will let you win. It took me 27 times to beat Fantina in Pokemon Diamond, and I only beat her in Platinum through the use of a cheat device to give me enough rare candies to level my Pokemon past level 45. One last thing, Fantina even annoys me in the anime. Her personality just seemed over the top, and it was like she didn't even care about being a gym leader, seeing as she was never at her gym. Also, the amount of times she said the word "alors" just really irritated me. I know she's supposed to be French, but the way she says it and the amount of time she says it just makes it seem like she's perfecting a Mario impression.